The condemned man sat rigidly on the wooden chair, his wrists and ankles clamped in heavy iron shackles that bit into his skin, knowing his life would end by sunrise. But when asked for his final wish, he spoke just one word: Rex. The guards hesitated, unsure why a condemned man wanted to see his dog. What followed shocked everyone and turned his execution into a miracle no one expected. Before we start, make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe. And really, I'm curious. Where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. The prison was cloaked in silence that night, broken only by the faint echo of footsteps along cold concrete floors. Behind the heavy iron bars sat a man in an orange jumpsuit, his wrists chained, his eyes hollow, yet strangely calm. Tomorrow would be his last sunrise. Most men in his place raged, begged, or wept, but he did none of those things. Instead, he sat quietly on the edge of his cot, staring at the cracks in the wall as if they held answers no one else could see. The weight of his past clung to him, but there was no fear, only acceptance. When the warden entered, clipboard in hand, the room shifted. "It's time," he said gently. "Do you have a final request?" The guards expected him to ask for a meal, a cigarette, maybe a letter to his family. Instead, the man lifted his head, eyes glistening. His voice was steady, almost fragile. "Just want to see Rex," he whispered. And for a moment, even the guards froze. The warden's brow furrowed as silence stretched across the room. A dog? Of all things he could ask for, this man had chosen to see his German shepherd. Some guards exchanged puzzled glances. Others shook their heads. "It's not protocol," one officer muttered. "This is a prison, not a petting zoo." Yet, the warden remained still, his gaze fixed on the condemned man. There was no mischief in his request, no hidden agenda, just raw sincerity. "Rex was the only one who never left me," the man whispered almost to himself. I can't leave this world without him knowing." A heated discussion broke out in the warden's office that night. Some argued it was harmless, that allowing a final goodbye would cost nothing. Others warned it could be risky. What if the dog lashed out, or the prisoner used the moment for escape? In the end, the warden made his decision. "Bring the dog," he said quietly. "If this is his last wish, we'll honor it." The order sent ripples through the prison halls. Something unusual was about to happen. The next morning, the prison gates creaked open and a low murmur swept through the yard. A German shepherd trotted in, flanked by two handlers. His fur gleamed under the harsh light, his ears alert, and his dark eyes scanned the unfamiliar place. Inmates pressed against their bars, stunned into silence. They had seen many things behind these walls, but never this. Rex's steps quickened, as if he knew exactly where he was going. The moment he caught his master's scent, he lunged against the leash, straining with all his strength. The guards tightened their grip, but it was useless. The dog's determination was unmatched. Inside the visitation chamber, the condemned man sat waiting, chains clinking softly as he shifted in his chair. When Rex was finally led in, the shepherd froze for a heartbeat, then let out a sound that was neither bark nor whine. It was something deeper, a cry of recognition. The man's eyes filled instantly. "Rex," he whispered. And as the dog bounded forward, pressing his head into his master's lap, the entire room fell silent. The man leaned forward, chains clattering softly as his trembling hands reached for the dog. Rex pressed close, licking his wrists as though trying to wash away years of sorrow. The prisoner whispered into his fur, words no one else could hear, his voice breaking for the first time in years. For a moment, the room seemed suspended in time. Even the guards, hardened by countless executions, shifted uneasily at the raw intimacy of the reunion. Some looked away, unwilling to witness a bond that human bars could never break. But then, Rex's behavior changed. His ears pricked sharply, his body stiffened, and a low growl rumbled from deep in his chest. His eyes darted away from his master and fixed on the row of officers standing behind him. The sound grew louder, vibrating with warning rather than fear. The guards exchanged nervous glances. One muttered, "Control the dog." But no one moved. The shepherd wasn't acting out of grief anymore. He had detected something. The condemned man frowned, his voice hoarse. "What is it, boy?" And suddenly everyone in that room knew. Something was terribly wrong. Rex's growls deepened as he yanked against the leash, his eyes locked on one of the guards near the door. The officer stiffened under the dog's gaze, his hand twitching toward his belt as though hiding something. The room tensed instantly, every pair of eyes shifting to him. The shepherd barked furiously, teeth bared, straining so violently that two men struggled to hold him back. He lunged forward, snapping at the air, his entire body radiating urgency. This wasn't random aggression. This was a warning. "Stand down." The warden barked, his voice echoing, but Rex wouldn't relent. He shoved his nose toward the guard's jacket, pawing, scratching, refusing to move until he was heard. Finally, another officer grabbed the man's arm, pulling him back, and something metallic clattered to the floor. A smuggled pistol slid across the tiles, glinting under the harsh prison lights. Gasps erupted. The chamber filled with shouts as guards swarmed the officer, pinning him down. The condemned man sat frozen, his breath ragged. Rex's instincts had just uncovered a secret that would shake the prison to its core. The room erupted into chaos. Guards shouted orders, chairs toppled, and the smuggled pistol was kicked far across the floor. Rex barked relentlessly, circling, his hackles raised as if daring anyone to come closer. The condemned man stared wide-eyed, his pulse racing. Somewhere deep inside, a flicker of hope sparked. The warden stormed forward, face pale with fury. "Explain yourself," he roared at the captured officer. The man struggled under the weight of 3 guards, his eyes darting wildly. At first, he said nothing, but the dog's growls pressed him like a vice. Finally, he broke. "It wasn't him," the officer blurted, voice cracking. "He didn't do it. I framed him." Gasps filled the chamber. The prisoner's head snapped up, disbelief flooding his face. The officer's words tumbled out in a desperate rush. Resentment, jealousy, a setup hidden beneath forged evidence. The warden froze, his clipboard slipping from his grasp. Around him, guards exchanged horrified looks. Rex barked one final time, then fell silent, his eyes steady as though to say, "I told you." The truth had clawed its way out, and nothing would ever be the same. The confession struck the room like thunder. For a long moment no one moved, only the sound of chains rattling as the condemned man lifted his head. Disbelief etched across his face. His chest heaved, not from fear, but from the sudden possibility that hope still lived. "Stop the execution," the warden ordered, his voice sharp, cutting through the stunned silence. Guards immediately stepped back from the prisoner, their expressions shifting from cold duty to uneasy respect. The man blinked, hardly daring to believe what he had just heard. Rex pressed closer, resting his head on his master's lap, tail thumping softly against the floor. His eyes glowed with calm assurance, as if he knew this was the moment he had been fighting for all along. Whispers spread through the prison corridors. How a dog had saved a man's life. How loyalty had uncovered truth where human justice had failed. For the first time in years, the condemned man closed his eyes, not in despair, but in silent gratitude. His life had been spared. Weeks later, the trial was reopened. Evidence once buried beneath lies was dragged into the light, and the officer's confession sealed the truth. The condemned man was no longer a prisoner awaiting death. He was an innocent man who had suffered years of injustice. Freedom, once impossible, was suddenly within reach. When the gates finally opened for him, Rex bounded at his side, no chains between them, no walls to separate them ever again. The man knelt in the sunlight, tears streaking his face as he wrapped his arms around the shepherd. "You saved me," he whispered. "You always knew." News of the miracle spread beyond the prison walls. To many, it was just an unbelievable story. But to those who had seen it unfold, it was proof that loyalty could be stronger than corruption, and truth could be carried in the bark of a faithful friend. As the man walked free with Rex at his side, one thought lingered in every heart. Sometimes justice wears 4 legs and a wagging tail.